Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's fix is my laptop. This is a Dell XPS 15 and it's the laptop that I do all my edits on, and it's got a couple of problems. The first one is the SD card reader has stopped working. I've upgraded things like the device drivers, doesn't seem to want to work. I believe I've got a hardware fault on that SD card reader and it needs replacing. The second problem is generating all these videos. I quite often run out of storage on the laptop and have to clear down the videos a lot. Anyway, I've done my research and I've discovered that this particular laptop has 2 slots for solid state drives. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to put in a second SSD to create like a data drive where I'm going to put all my video content and keep the primary SSD clean for Windows operation. I also want to replace the IO card, which has the SD card reader and the audio section is all on one card. So I've been out and I've bought myself a 2 terabyte SSD card. I need a heatsink for this, and this is a special heatsink for the secondary position. This heatsink design is slightly different if you try to replace the one on the primary position. We'll have a look at that a bit later. And finally, this is the IO card. It's got the slot for the SD card to go in. And on this side, these pads here actually is for the connection to the audio 3.5mm socket on the side of the laptop. Anyway, as always, I've done my research. Dell is a fantastic company, and it's very daunting to actually go inside these laptops because you don't really understand how they come apart. But if you go online, and let's have a look at a Google search. So in a search, put in the model number and service manual, and you will come to the Dell service manual online, which is a really great resource. Spinning down, we can go into removing and installing components. And this lists out pretty much everything you need to know. Let's start with, say, the base cover. Removing the base cover. Gives you pictures, shows where all the screws are. Description of how to use a plastic tool to actually take the back off, and finally disconnecting the battery and discharging the laptop so we're not going to cause any damage or problems by shorting stuff out. So what I'm after is the solid state drive. If I pop that down, if I had to remove a SSD, again it would show me where it's positioned and how to take out the heatsink and disconnect the SSD, and of course also it will show you how to install a new one. But let's look at the IO port. First thing it says is I've got to remove the right fan, and again more information about how to take out the board, disconnect it, etc. Really good. So there we are. I've printed off a couple of those pages anyway, just so that I've got them to hand while I get into this. What are you going to need in the way of tools? Well, first of all, you're going to need a Torx 4 screwdriver, and to get the base off for sure. Probably a small fine crosshead as well. Plastic tools. Use things like this if you're ever cracking open plastics as well. You don't want to damage anything. This is like a plectrum. It's very useful. Buy it online. I got that a complete tool set for not a lot of money to open up phones and so on. So let's clear the decks and get started on it then. So the first thing, let's flip the laptop over. We've got our screws that we saw earlier. Torx 4. Take the screws out. Okay, now I've got all the screws out, I'm going to use this plectrum to actually crack open the case, starting at the front edge just here. Get it in, move it along, And there we are, it's popping up nicely. Going to go the other way. That's coming down the side. Being very careful to make sure we get the whole lot without causing any damage. Going down this side, yep, it's coming. Look at that, there's that, it's coming. There we are. And off comes the cover. Fantastic. So the next step is to disconnect the battery, and that's done on this terminal here. So I should be able to just ease that out. It's coming. There we are. And that is disconnected. Fantastic. Now I want to discharge the laptop, so we're going to just turn it over again. Open up, and I'm just going to press on the button here for about 15 seconds. Okay, that's done. Turning back over again. So a very quick cook's tour of what we got here. Battery, obviously. Here is the first primary SSD, and this is the slot for the second SSD. And just of note is if I put the heat sinks together, the lug here is different to the one on this one. You must make sure you get the right heat sink, but essentially that's going to go in like that eventually, but make sure you get the right heat sink. So putting in the first SSD then, there's a little notch just here. We're going to very gently line that up, and be gentle with everything you do here, and just ease it into the slot like that. It's in, and then I'm going to put the heat sink over the top, push down, and then I've got a screw that's going to go into there. If I just grab the screw. This actually came with the kit as well, which is quite nice. And that's a crosshead. And that's going to go in there. Voila! That is the SSD fitted. So my next problem is over on this side. This is the I/O port that I've got to take out. But first of all, you remember I've got to take this fan out. Right, the next move then is this fan has to come out, and to get that out there is a screw there, and a screw there, and there's the connector for the fan just here. So we've got to remove all of them apparently. So using a very fine screwdriver. Carefully taking it out and not losing it. That's number one. That's number two. This is number three. Right, apparently this should now come off, which it does. That's now exposed the fan quite nicely. I just got to disconnect the connector here like that. It does warn you just to be very careful with removing this, but there's the fan out. Very nice. Let's put that to one side. That then leaves the I/O port to have a go at. The next thing is to disconnect the ribbon cable just here, and I think if I just put my nail underneath that tab, like that, that is disconnected. Without going any further, the next thing is to remove this screw. Like that. And then we should be able to lift out. It's got to back out. There we go. Out it comes. That is the IO port out. So let's try and fit in the new one by just sliding this back in very carefully. And that is the new one in. All I've got to do is push this back down. There we are, I just felt it click in. That's in. Right, putting back the screws in the order that I took them out. That's in. Next, we want to put this back in very carefully, like that. We've got a screw, 3 screws you remember, and that's the first one. We've got to put this plate back in like that, and then we're going to put the screw back in. Gently done. And then I'm putting the last screw back in. Like that. Quite happy with this. Just make sure all the screws are nice and tight. That's in. And that's in. Right, just reconnect this fan. So just popping this connector back in. Like there, clipped. Okay, everything's gone rather well. So the final step is to reconnect the battery down here. Okay, so with the battery now reconnected, we're going to put the cover back on very carefully, making sure you hook it on at the back. And that doesn't feel right already. Just having a quick look. Make sure it's down on that side, it's down on this side. So I should now be able to just push down the plastic. Make sure it's all nicely seated. It's nicely seated that side, and it's nicely seated this side. Right, that just leaves putting the screws back in. Right, there we are. Okay, so I've rebooted the laptop, and it took a moment to come back up because the laptop went through a BIOS setting because it discovered the new hard drive essentially, but eventually it came back up quite nicely. Now, what we're going to do next, the next thing to do is if I right click over Start, I can then go to Disk Management, and there's my new volume just here, and I can create a simple volume. that's all good. 2 terabytes, going to assign letter D to it. And I can change the volume name. What shall I call it? I should call it video. Just call it video. And finish. There's my new volume called video. Fantastic. Right, so if I shut that down, go to File Explorer, have a look under File Explorer, there's my new volume called video, letter D. Fantastic. Okay, so hard drive's working. Next step is to find out whether we can see the SD card reader. So if I go into Device Manager and look down here, memory technology devices, there's my card reader there. It's appearing. Fantastic. So in theory, if I go to File Management like this, if I plug an SD card now into my slot, what happens? Oh, something happened, and there we are. Letter E is the SD card. Fantastic. So everything's working. Well, there we are. That's the job done. Laptop 100% working now, which I'm really pleased with. Lots of storage as well. And for once, my SD card is working perfectly fine as well. My SD card reader, I should say, is working perfectly fine. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up or leave some comments, or even think about subscribing. As you can tell, I do all kinds of fixing jobs around the house. It could be cars, it could be motorbikes, it could be computers, it could be all sorts of things. It's whatever takes my interest. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.